Hey, welcome back to my channel. Did you also feel like a lot of these celebrity houses kind of feel, they're amazing, right? They look amazing, but sometimes it kind of feels a little bit like they don't actually live there. Like they say they cook in this kitchen, which is like flawless, but what kitchen is that flawless? I'm sure everything was staged for the shoot, but a lot of times I kind of feel like they don't actually really enjoy living in their own spaces because it was all for the show, which is all the more the reason why I'm more interested in real people's home that they themselves designed or they actually really thought about how it should be, because I believe your home should reflect you, which is why I'm excited to show you guys Patrick's apartment in New York. His apartment feels like he actually designed it himself. That you can really tell what kind of a homemaker, entertainer, and entrepreneur he is, because his space reflects it. Don't get me wrong, he also has a lot of money, more than most people do, to be able to afford this apartment and design it in such a way, but I do believe that he has such a talent of transforming a space and changing someone's perception of a space using different color and materials. I personally don't know him. I somehow came across to his video on Homeworthy, and I later found out that his apartment was covered in so many different channels as well, so I will also take some of those videos in this video so that you can go actually watch it. Without a further ado, let's talk about his apartment. This is perhaps the crown jewel of Patrick's apartment, and I also really love this part of his apartment, the bar shelves and the bar area in his living room. And this is the part where you can really see that he really lives here and that he thought about how to serve people and entertain people in his living room, right? And doing so, he employs a lot of the traditional French symmetry principle of interior design throughout his apartment, and living room is not an exception. You can even see in the bar shelves that he used two different types of lamps flanking both sides. So while he's creating this French symmetry, he's breaking it ever so slightly in a subtle way to keep the symmetry very fresh and interesting. And he also achieved this effect by contrast. For instance, what could easily read as industrial with a brick wall and the metal iron shelves, he brings in more softer, warmer materials like shaky carpet, fabric sofa, organic shaped coffee table, which I think is a brilliant move to keep things fresh and interesting. While he's using French symmetry and breaking it ever so slightly, he also uses color and the same material palette to kind of tidy up the visual clutters. He has so many different bar materials and liquors and books and everything, but still your eyes are not too focused on all these visual clutters in the background, because he has this solid black bar that really draws your eyes on. Black can be such an interesting and overwhelming color to use, but when used correctly and smartly, it can actually help your eyes rest. It almost works as a punctuation. Sometimes it draws your eyes all the way to the back, sometimes it distracts your eyes from the business in the background as well. And I also use this tactic in my own design as well with this black light fixture. So when you look at it, when you enter my room, your eyes are immediately drawn to all the way to the back, which kind of gives that spaciousness and more lengthier entrance, if you will. And he also uses in his apartment as well, if you look at it from the other angle, he also has this black lampshade and a black console by the fireplace. It kind of changes your perception of the depth of the space. From where you're standing to the black point, the space kind of feels a lot more elongated because of it. So he definitely knows how to kind of trick eyes in designing a space. And I think he's a really brilliant designer in a way that he knows how to manipulate how we perceive the space through compression and release and colors and different material palettes. And I also kind of agree that he wanted to stress the contrast between the brick wall and the bar shelf. Overall, I do agree with him that he wanted to keep the brick wall more or less open and undecorated because it has a very strong character. But if you're looking at it from another angle, it does seem like you can use another black furniture to kind of counterbalance the firewood console on one side of the fireplace, because I feel like it's a little bit heavier on one side, and I think that's what's kind of bothering me a little bit. Maybe he can bring in another, like a maybe black bench, a low-rise bench or a sideboard to keep other stuff, maybe bike related. I don't think he would be able to sit under the bike given how low the bike is hung on the wall, but still, if he could just bring in another black furniture to kind of balance off the firewood console on the other side of the fireplace, I think it would be visually more compelling and stable. But all in all, I think his living room is chef's kiss, and this space definitely tells me something about Patrick as an homemaker and entertainer. But also, did you notice that he's sitting on the floor, basically using the sofa as a backrest? I don't know whether he knew about this or not, but that is literally how Koreans live in their living room. They have great sofas, it's just that they don't really make a habit of sitting on it all the time, and a lot of times they just sit on the floor. And it's quite comfortable, especially when you have a good carpet. And I like to think that he just randomly discovered the beauty and the comfort of floor living lifestyle. And another thing that I really like about his apartment is this corridor, right? What could have been a useless space too narrow for any furniture, most people would have just put console or sideboard on the side and then just leave it as is so that people can walk through the space. But he actually turned it into a useful space for dining and co-working space, right? And he actually thrifted this long dinner table. I don't know what this exactly is, but even the way that he oriented, parallel to the walls of the corridor, makes the corridor look more elongated, which gives an illusion that his space is a lot larger than it actually is. And that is the trick that you always have to think about when you're designing for a small space. How do you make the room appear larger and wider and more spacious? Like in big cities like New York and Seoul, the apartment is very expensive. Space is very precious, and then you don't have a lot of it. And also, having everything big and living large is not always more sustainable. So I think it is very important to keep in mind when you're designing your tiny space, how to make your space feel more generous than it actually is. Also, this living room used to be 2 rooms according to Patrick, but when he moved in, he had the wall that divided the room into 2 rooms taken down so that he can create this beautiful space. And by doing so, he really opened up the space, and he could have actually put a sofa right up against the wall like most people do, but instead he actually kind of floated the sofa in the middle of the space, away from the windows but centering around it. And he also brought in this floor to ceiling mirror that even further exaggerate this kind of French symmetry and kind of centrality of the mirror. It accentuates the height of the room, all the while giving more like an axis to the space, which I think is a brilliant. And if you look at the mirror itself, it's not really a modernist piece of furniture, but he used this very baroque mirror in a very modernist sense with a purpose in mind. Right, it kind of serves a function. Not only does it bounce off the light in a room that's already flooded with light through the 2 industrial-sized windows, but also he allows the room to feel more generous because of the length and the height of the mirror. I think that's just so brilliant that he used mirror, because I do also love using mirror in my design. I think it's a very versatile furniture that you can use to make your room appear larger. Moving on to the bedroom, I think this room he chose to keep it very simple so that he can just relax at the end of the day. So he's not trying to reinvent the wheel, he's not trying to break the French symmetry, he's wholeheartedly embracing the French symmetry. He does consider the movement of the air and the light, right? By using Roman shade and the curtains, he's creating this layer effect of light control, but also makes the room a lot more cozier, while the French symmetry makes it more calming, restful environment. And it's a bedroom, so it doesn't really need any visual interest as long as you can just relax and not really think about all the business. I think it's a perfect design for a small bedroom. And I also love that he chose this room as his bedroom, because I also share the opinion that bedroom doesn't really have to be anything fancy or too grandeur, because I mean you're only going to sleep there. When you're not sleeping there, there's nothing much to do there, so it doesn't really make sense to assign your bed to the biggest room in the house. Then we go to the kitchen, and then he said that he changed a lot in the kitchen. First of all, he removed the big island in the center of the kitchen to kind of open up the space, and the entire vibe of the kitchen is very moody and dark, with a lot of appliances hidden away in the cabinetry, and the cabinetries are all like dark, hard materials, along with the marble backsplash in the kitchen. So everything is a little bit dark, which kind of makes the room a little bit more compact and streamlined. And it kind of provides a contrast to the rest of the apartment. As you can see, the rest of the apartment is very bright, light, airy. And if you can just look at the photo from the other side, you can tell how kitchen is comparably much darker than the rest of the apartment. And I think he did it purposefully to kind of create this effect called compression and release, famously used by Frank Lloyd Wright. By contrast, he is creating this more wide opening, generous living space down the apartment. But that said, personally speaking, I don't think he actually cooks a lot in his kitchen. Hear me out. He said that he had an island in the middle of the kitchen and it was too bulky, so he got rid of it. But for somebody who habitually cooks and cooks a lot, there is not nearly enough surface space for him to do all that cooking. So I think maybe he cooks occasionally. But yeah, not everyone has to cook. I think it's wonderful that even in the kitchen, it kind of shows what kind of person he is. And that's why I love his space. So that's Patrick's home. Something that balances the French symmetry with the surprise, hard edges with kind of cozy, moody vibe throughout the apartment. And what I really like about Patrick's home is that you can kind of get a feel and a sense of a person that he is, right? It's not overly designed, it's not too flashy, but it's also functional and it suits him. And it kind of makes me think of my guest room project as well. I wasn't designing it to, say, impress other people, but because I had very specific functions that I wanted out of this guest room. It had to serve as a dining room and guest room, but also movie room. So how do I balance all these functions in a single room without congesting it? And Patrick's place also felt that way. It's personal, it's intentional, and also playful. Alright, that was it for me today. This is a new content that I'm starting, looking at other people's houses. I actually do it quite a lot, just privately, but I thought maybe sharing some other people's homes can be interesting for you guys as well, and also trying to kind of see other people's space through my own perspective. you know? So maybe this would help you understand what I'm talking about in other videos too. Anyways, thank you so much for coming back today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night. See you guys next time. Bye bye. Ciao ciao.